So, hi guys. So, I'm Serg Hospodarets, and I'm front-end lead developer based in Dublin. And today we're gonna speak about CSS Houdini, which is actually a bridge between your CSS, JavaScript, and the browser. So, it will be about CSS Custom Properties, and you will understand why CSS Custom Properties is not just CSS variables, but actually custom properties. We'll discuss how to register new custom properties and tell browser how to work with them. So all these dreams actually will come true. And you will understand what is JavaScript Worklet. So about me, I actually participate in all this discussion regarding CSS Houdini, ECMAScript modules. I love all this, the latest additions in CSS, JavaScript, HTML. I always just share this in my blog, in Twitter, and the essential part of CSS Houdini to start working with this, it's actually custom properties. Recently, my article was published on Smashing magazine that it's time to start using CSS custom properties. And actually, it's the first step to CSS Houdini. So to understand CSS Houdini, we have to start from custom properties. And you know something about this. Actually, I'm wondering, who already used custom properties, guys? Sounds good. So thanks to Leah, she told us many things about this. So we will revisit a couple things and understand why we really need CSS custom properties and why it's time to start using them. So actually, preprocessors. OK, let's compare. Who use CSS preprocessors? Much more. So it's a tech standard mostly for today. Let's say SAS, yeah? But in preprocessors, actually, what we have in preprocessors, it's variables, yeah? You got to use that actually. You declare a variable, $, because it's SAS, and provide some value like 10 pixels or anything. Same for font family, anything else. And after that, you can just use this across your application. But if it's global, not global, depends. And of course, you got used to do some operations with this. Plus, minus, multiply, many of them. Yep. So it's something what we use today. And what problems actually we have with this? And let's see. Each preprocessor has own syntax. SAS, it's $, less, it's dot, yeah? And every time you just start working with a new preprocessor, you're learning new syntax. So you need a tech standard for this. Every time you spend for additional setup. Of course, it's not Webpack, but anyway, you just spend half a day, 1 day just to change your setup to work with SAS, less, anything, yeah? And every change you spend in time waiting, OK, when it's compiled, OK, it should be applied in the browser. And it takes time. Every day you spend your time for this. And of course, they are not aware by default, by design, about any browser DOM structure. And of course, any interaction between CSS preprocessor and JavaScript are just not possible mostly, yeah, and in the browser. So we want to solve two latest problems. Others are like big problems, but anyway. Let's take a look once again what is CSS variables in something what Leah just told us. You have a variable, so you just use dash dash. I will discuss why dash dash. You provide variable name and some value there. To use it, it's quite simple. Just use var function. When you use var function, provide variable name, boom, it works in the browser. Let's take a look. As any other CSS property, you just provide like main color. You see, root is usually HTML. So they cascade. When you just provide for root something, sorry, I just need some magic water. When you provide something for root, it's immediately available across your application. So if you provided main color with some value, anywhere in your application, for body you can use it, for example, like this. And of course, you will ask, like, OK, we had $, we had something else. Why we need dash dash syntax? It was a reason. Dash dash is needed to actually make available to use CSS custom properties in preprocessor. So you can use both your preprocessor variables and actually native variables. So yeah, which is cool. And let's take a look. Yeah, internet works. Cool. I just created a demo where I exposed just CSS custom properties. You see font size first, for example, here. I'm changing that to some other value. Immediately, browser just works, change it immediately. Border 10, border, let's increase border. So just to show you that it works, it doesn't need anything. So browser is your compiler now, it's actually immediately in the browser. You, of course, can do this for font variables, for font family, anything you actually would like to. Yeah, ugly. And the best, 1 year ago, I was speaking about this, and all the people asked it, like, when? Well, after 1 year, I can say, here it is. All the major browsers support this today. So if you don't support A11, just start using it without any questions. If you want to support A11, there are still options. And you can use mixins, you can use post-CSS, plenty of them. But anyway, support everywhere. All green, everything is nice. And what can you put as a variable value? The answer is simple, anything. Anything what is valid CSS, you can put as a value. So let's take a look. Colors, here, yeah. Length, also there. Time, what else? Strings, and even functions. Functions like calc, you just put there and you can reuse after. And even though you can put something like this. It's valid CSS value. I'm not sure how would you use this in CSS, but you can actually put this and send as a, you'll see how to work with Java, how to interact from JavaScript with CSS and read this. So you can send this to JavaScript. And it might be a terrible idea for CSS and JS guys, and we'll see how it will work. And declaration usage. Use cases, as in many languages, you want to have some syntax sugar. You want to say, possibly some particular variable will not exist, and I want just to use some default value. Just pass a second argument to this var function and have fun. You can, of course, reuse other variables when declaring new ones or using new ones. And of course, you can concatenate them and do some other actions. Like here you see, I'm just concatenating strings. Let's take a look into the example. Sorry. I created 2 boxes. You see, text custom, it's actually 2 classes, text custom and custom properties. I'm saying for text, just use a variable text, which is actually custom. And for first box, just use undefined variable, which is actually undefined. And if there is no undefined, use custom. Here we see custom. For custom properties, which is actually second box, I'm saying concatenate custom and properties. Let's take a look that it actually works. I'm just changing some value. Here they are. I'm adding custom symbols to the first variables immediately. So your browsers immediately just invoke this, boom, works. Let's go further. CSS-Wide Keywords and all properties. As you may know, for all CSS properties, you can use CSS-Wide Keywords. It's initial, unset, revert, and depends if they inherited or no. Browser will apply some values like user agent value or the previous value or anything else. You can do the same for custom properties. And you can use all property. All property actually resets mostly all CSS properties except custom properties. So from CSS, you actually don't have ability to reset all CSS custom properties for particular element. So currently under consideration is just like this property dash dash. We'll see where it goes. Hopefully someday we'll have it. But anyway, as you see, you can use all this. Recently, Chris Carrier actually posted an article that one of the good usages of CSS custom properties is just that all value parts can be changed individually. For example, for transform, you always provide like couple things like scale, rotate, or anything. In this example, I'm just changing on hover, just rotate. And it might be a good idea to use custom properties. You see, you can just split value to couple custom properties and change only rotate one. Actually, you have the same result as previously, changing only one value. So you can split any value, whatever you want, in your browser. You can go even further. As Leo mentioned, we don't have box shadow color function. So previously what we had when we did hover, we actually repeated ourselves, box shadow, the same value, and just change the color. I don't want this. I want to introduce a new value. So you can actually emulate non-existent CSS values like box shadow color yellow previously, and now it's orange. Let's take a look. Works. I'm changing this to red. It's reloaded and red. So you can not only split values, you can introduce and actually emulate new properties with this. And operations. We mentioned that actually we want, and we do, all these operations like plus, minus, multiply, anything. And your browser will simply not understand what's going on if you do something like this. Variable multiply by, because it's not valid CSS. But in CSS it was introduced calc. Sorry. Calc was introduced exactly for this, to say if anything changed in this calc function, immediately just recompute what's going on here. So anytime when your variable will be changed, browser correctly will work with your expressions here. So calc is your new friend, just don't hesitate to use it with custom properties. And let's put all together. So if I can use calc, I can go a bit further and introduce something like, okay, if I want to calculate background color using calc function. Here I created a demo where I have 3 sliders like R, G, and B. And they are changed from 0 to 255. You actually see where I'm going. Let's generate colors using sliders. For main color, which is this, I'm just using for background like RGBA, R, G, and B. It just, you see, in CSS, I'm not tricking you. Let's change. You see, immediately browser applies any changes which you did to you, and it's done absolutely plainly from CSS, like R, G, and B. You can go and do something like Instagram does, some kind of crazy formulas, like it's inverted color. And in invert, we just use 255 minus R minus B minus G. And actually, this color represents the inverted color of the red one. Let's change it. Again, browser on the fly changes everything what you wanted. And we can go even further. Today we just discussed a couple times that we can use some theming. We can provide like RGB or main color. Sorry. And actually use some particular colors from this. I went a bit further. I just generated all colors in my application using this calc function. If you see these crazy formulas, I just invented my formula because I can. Yeah, and I just using this magic file formula minus blah blah blah, changing. I'm actually applying all the colors in this application based on these 3. Let's change these 3. You see, one RGB. I'm changing R. What I see, change it. I'm just changing B. Everything changed. And of course, we can just do the same with JavaScript, just applying this color. Whoop. All the colors in the entire application. Of course, I didn't change the image, so Bill is OK. And we can go further, values after changer. Ooh, some magic. So you just actually adding or something like this. We will need to actually take a look into this demo because we'll revisit this once again after speaking about performance. So going further. Changes to custom properties have immediate effect. Previously, in preprocessors, actually now, we just do like, if you assign a variable and then use this variable, actually, that's it, browser actually works with this. After, in this block, you just change in the variable value, preprocessor doesn't care because you didn't explicitly say that margin should be updated. So in output, nothing will be changed. And the same for hover. When you change just a variable without explicitly saying margin, blah, 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 preprocessor will do nothing. Absolutely. It's vice versa story in CSS Custom Properties. When you provided a variable, using this for margin, immediately any changes, like here, or for hover, will be actually applied by the browser. Here is the result of all of this. You have actually text and text active. Usually when you want to add active class, what you do? You just saying, here is my addition to active, like I just want to change text size or anything. You see on the left side, on the left part of the screen, it's actually preprocessor. No changes applied, absolutely no changes, because it's fully ignored. And with custom properties, you see just text is changed, size changed, anything you wanted. So once again, the biggest differences are like CSS custom properties are aware of the DOM structure first, and secondly, any changes to them have immediate effect. So just for you to know. And I promised you just to explain how to use them with JavaScript. All our frontend is one ecosystem. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, they all work together. So we want to easily interact with JavaScript to send some data from CSS to JavaScript and back from JavaScript to CSS. Let's say you want to send your breakpoint data in your application, just to reuse for media queries the same in JavaScript. No problem. just find this element and use like get computed style your element, get property value, font. So you just send in, it's your transport from CSS to JavaScript. It's one of the abilities. And vice versa, like you just have some request come back from your server, and you want to change some UI from JavaScript, depending on user interaction or anything. Just you do the same from JavaScript, just .style, set property, any property, and your value. So both ways it works from CSS to JavaScript and back. Here's my application. I just went further. I created an application where I just changed 3 CSS custom properties. They apply it in transform function, as you see here. And let's take a look. When I'm changing X, it should be rotated. Let's take a look. Pink. Let's go back. Translate that. I just want to rotate it a bit differently. I'm changing this value. Punk. So you see, and I can just do this bigger or smaller or something. And I want this to be actually interactive with the user style. So you see, whoop, pure CSS. And in JavaScript, we just changing 3 CSS custom properties, nothing else. So you can just achieve amazing UI effects using this. And of course, we already say that it's supported everywhere, but for some reason, you still have to support A11, for example, or anything else. You can use actually abilities to check if it's supported in your browser. In CSS, it's add support, like add support CSS variables and some code in case it's supported. Not CSS variables, code in cases it's not supported. The same in JavaScript. It's like css.supports, it's your API from now. And you can use this to do some actually graceful degradation or progressive enhancement, depends on your application. For example, today you have CSS which is generated from your preprocessors, like without CSS custom properties. And after my speech, you just decided why not to use custom properties, but okay, I still have IE11 or old browser. You just generate your new CSS, it's like progressive enhancement, and checking if it's supported, just remove the previous CSS and apply the new one, and just add some other abilities or anything like this. That's it, straightforward. And as we already said, in 1 year, it was implemented in all the browsers. Of course, there were a couple of things where they tricked it. They tricked it and added a couple constraints. You see, they are not animatable. The reason, because browser doesn't know about their type. The main idea is just strings. Browser just takes this value and apply whatever you want. And that's it. As a result, no idea about types, no idea how to animate them. And let's take a look into the specification. They can even be transitioned or animated, but since user agent doesn't have any idea what will be there, they just always flip at 50%, which means if you have an animation of color like from 0 to 1 second, and you want to change from red to green, it will be at half a second, change it from value A to value B, without any of these smooth things. Let's take a look why it's actually important. All our life is smooth, you know? When you listen to music, you just don't see these musical notes, don't hear these musical notes. When you see the light, it's actually not particles, not nothing. It's just one smooth thing. So let's take a look. I'm just doing this. Oh, much better. So Alice, now it's smooth. I will show how to do this. And other actually good things what we can have from this, you see on top it's IDE, here it's browser DevTools, actually Chrome. So as only you introduce types for anything, you have support and validation in IDE and syntax highlight, correct? Your browser and actually IDE knows that if you type in grid, it might be only grid or just grid area or anything. The same, if you provide font size red, it's just like, sorry, bullshit, I have no idea how to work with this because I know it's typed, it should be a color. And of course, you have better performance, browser support, you can apply linters, compilers, performance, everything is there. Can you imagine DevTools, you can just say that my variable is, let's say, color, as only you provide their 12 pixel, your DevTools saying, no, it's terrible, I have no idea how to do this. And I'm saying, like, let's introduce types. Actually, no. If we take a look into the specification from 1996, which is actually when CSS started, you see it was units. Units about length, about percentage, and we know, for example, for padding, we have length, we have percentage. You can provide like pixels, percentage, anything, because we already know how to work with this property. Even you didn't know it's in the specification, you know how to work it. The same for text align, it's only dedicated values like left, right, anything else. For border width, it's also like length, medium, anything. So honestly, we are not introducing types. They're already there. They're already implemented for many years ago, and we just have to reuse them from the specification, even though we didn't know these names. And here it comes to Houdini group. So Houdini task, so named Houdini task force, it's just not couple developers. It's not the Google guys only by themselves. It's actually dedicated developers from many companies, as you see, all major browser companies, and HP, LG, IBM, and other guys. They dedicate guys and started working on bunch of the specifications. Some of them are placeholders, some of them half ready, some implemented in some particular browsers. The main idea is just to provide us developers ability to work with browser internal things. So previously everything what was hidden now will be exposed. So let's start from specification, which are the specifications which are connected to CSS and custom properties themselves. CSS typed, once again, CSS custom properties available everywhere, you can use this. CSS typed object model specification provides ability to actually interact with your CSS from JavaScript and back and send information back. It's available in Chrome behind experimental web platform features and many other Houdini stuff. And for example, now to generate this function, translate 3D and provide some values, and actually to not only just to generate, but to read these values, you're doing terrible things. You provide regexps, you just concatenate strings or anything. It's not performant, it's not useful, and it's terrible. So it's actually a specification which provides API to do all this, to read from CSS values and send values back to CSS, to construct these values. And another spec here is Rabbit. These 6 lines will give you the power of actually everything. Previously, only browser could add any custom any properties for the file. For the application. So somehow text-align works as we know. Somehow everything else just is inherited or just have some opacity for some reason is 1. Yeah. So some initial value. So now we have this ability. It works in Chrome under this experimental web platform feature Slack in Chrome stable even. And you're saying, I want to register my own property. Yeah. I give it some name, stop color. I'm just saying it's color, which means it will work with RGB, it will hex, HSL, anything you want. You saying now for the browser if it is inherited or no. And initial value. Initial value is quite important for custom elements. Custom elements, it's like in Angular and React, the same idea of components, native components in the browser. So now you have all the control just to say browser what to do. And it appeared, even for the next version, we have actually proposal to put this in CSS. Currently, it's only JavaScript API. After a while, it might be added in CSS because actually, CSS custom properties belong there. And why it's important? Do you remember my demo where I showed this auto changer of color? Eventually, I just left my laptop and just went to eat or something. I came back in half an hour, it was mostly discharged. And I started to actually dig Fuser and find out that you see, CPU was taken mostly, terribly. And in memory was taken from 15 to 28 megabytes. And it was just this animation, anything else. Was not something else. And actually, I added this 6 magic lines to my color variables, remember which we animated. And you see, immediately, just CPU started being used twice less. And actually, for memory, it's also from 8 to 21, comparing to 15 to 28. So it's quite important for your performance, quite important for your battery. And yeah, I measured it. Just my laptop died in 1 hour, except half an hour. Whoop. And syntax. Of course, you will ask, what about the syntax search? The main idea that you see, I just pointed there, all the available values like length, number, percentage. You don't need to know them all now, because by default you can use just asterisk. But let's take a look. It's quite important. You can use some combinations. Combinations mean like, okay, I want to provide, it might be length or percentage, like do you remember border? But it's quite important, it appeared to say browser. It might be calc there or might be not. So in this case, you can use either or, first option. or this dash. The second option, the second combination will tell browser, actually calc might be used there. If you're using the first option, browser will provide more performance optimizations and will always know that no calc will be there. It's quite important to know. And of course, you can just provide some dedicated values like in text align left, right, blah, blah, blah. So if you are registering your properties, feel free to do this. And of course, values. You know, for padding, for example, you can use 12 pixels, 12 pixels, 12 pixels. It's actually length. So you can do this for this syntax. And now, we coming to a point. Do you remember this part of the spec? Like, as user agent didn't have any idea what type it was for your custom properties, they were not animatable. And currently we're saying, we put all this vault, we're saying everything for the browser. It's a color, let's say. It's inherited, and an initial value is like this. So currently, I suppose they should be animatable. And let's take a look. We already saw this. Here's our alias. And you see, here's my CSS code. I'm just saying, here's my CSS property. I'm using this for widths and just using CSS animation. At dedicated points, I'm just saying like 10, 20, 30%, just change the size. Usual CSS animation pointed at line here. We still have this behavior. But as only I uncomment these magic lines, here we have 5. I miss it, inherited. So let's wait until it's reloaded. And it's immediately started being animatable. You see, I just didn't do anything. I just say that size is a percentage and initial value is 100%. Cool. Now all your engine of animation in the browser know about this and starts working. And let's go further. Who knows what is web animation? OK, so actually, it's the same API from JavaScript, just to manipulate and work with the browser animation engine using JavaScript. You see, in CSS, let's compare CSS and JavaScript. In CSS, you use just keyframe and saying at this particular value, just use provide translate X for transform, at 100, transform should be different. Let's take a look what you do in JavaScript. It's quite similar to jQuery and many other just libraries where you use animation. But now it will be native. In many browsers already we have polyfills for this. We have implementations in Chrome, for example. And we're saying the same transform, animate from value A to value B. So it's quite similar. And in CSS, we just say it like, it's called rabbit move, it takes 1 second, some particular is in effect, and actually state at the end. The same you do in JavaScript. Like duration 100 milliseconds, stay at the end, and isn't is easy and out. That's it. And as you see rabbit, let's go back to Alice and Friends. Here I'm saying, here's my rabbit, here it is. I'm saying animate custom properties X from 0 to actually X somewhere here. I just asking move rabbit in 1 second somewhere there. Did you see it actually? He was moved, but something is wrong. Yeah, we again missing this animation. So what I'm doing again, the same trick. I'm registering 2 properties. I'm sorry, something is going on here. So translate X, translate Y. I'm saying that both of them are lengths, and actually initial value is 0. Let's wait for our internet. Ta-dam! What I'm doing now? Boom! So it both CSS and JavaScript animation started to work. So which means all your universe actually for now can be animated like this. Just feel free. After all, this browser will do very performant animations. Will just work with your custom properties, knowing all these types and everything else. So let's summarize. Currently, we introduced CSS Custom Properties. Now we know what it is. We introduced CSS property types, and actually, which tells browser how to work with them for your dev tools, for all this universe and everything else. And actually, in JavaScript, we introduced this specification typed object model, which actually provides the ability to interact from CSS to JavaScript and use it as a transport there and back. Between CSS and JavaScript, it's CSS object model, so they are kind of aware about each other. We have a browser, and some magic happens, yeah? Every time when you just changing display from block to flexbox, something's going on. Something is going on, how it's called, something what is part of browser rendering. So you just interacting with HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So let's take a look. Sorry. So in general, actually, it goes to HTML, JavaScript, CSS parser, and then it's actually document object model, you see? And after that, it goes to some render tree, so-called. After that, it's layout phase. Layout phase, it's exactly what you said, like, I want flexbox, I want display, or anything. Browser just put all your page together, and actually you have some structure. After that, it goes to paint. Every this particular DOM element is actually painted, you see? 1, 2, 3, all of them, and Compositor. After all these elements are painted, you have to know, okay, maybe you applied some transform, maybe opacity, something is changed in some particular order, it should be showed in your screen. So, which means like how it goes to be rendered in your browser, yeah? So, it means like pixel rendering pipeline, how it goes from your HTML, CSS, JavaScript to your actually screen. Style, layout, paint, composite. It's the CSS stages which I applied in the browser. The most important is your internal browser engine. You have no control on this, you cannot interact with this anyhow, so it's just like pure magic happens there. But the main idea, I already told you, of CSS Houdini group to actually expose this API. And this is Alex Surma, he works in Google on this CSS Houdini stuff, and exactly he's saying about this, and there will be some code and which actually control all this. And it's probably non-unrealistic to assume that some of these code fragments will have to be run every single frame. Think once again, every single frame means in the browser. Every millisecond, every microsecond, even more when you move in mouse, when you're changing something, it should be some JavaScript code which is executed and do some magic for you. And we'll see what it means. For today, we have only one mechanism to not block the user UI. It's actually workers. You already know about service workers, about web workers. Yeah, it's things which actually executed in separate thread. They just don't interact with DOM and don't block UI. The same idea, they call this worklets. The main idea, we have some very performant API, limited. I just used this word just to show it's not limited, but it's restricted. Every time when you want to read something from CSS, you explicitly say, I want to read this CSS property. You will see why. And today, guys, we're just in this world where we have ECMAScript 6 2015 plus code. So actually, essentially, it will be classes in JavaScript with named methods which will be executed. And they will be triggered and executed when and where it's possible. Let's take a look. It's similar to workers. You know, you have your web application, and then you're saying like, paint worklet, add module, layout.js. The same as in worklet. Some particular file is executed. Actually, it's ECMAScript module, native one, and they will be. There is some code, ECMAScript 6 class, which will be executed only when it's needed. For example, when the browser does paint, or browser does this layout phase, or anything, some parts of your code will be executed. These worklets will die with your page. So it's their life cycle, how it works, just in general for you to understand. And let's take a look to the first of them. First actually is layout, but I will discuss this further. So let's go to paint worklet. You can achieve some effects like this using paint. So paint stage is actually, it's a stage in this rendering mechanism which actually responsible for painting background, content, and highlight a box based on this computed styles for this block. So for example, browser reads CSS, tries to paint the content and everything related. During this stage, you actually have control on background image, on border image, everything related to paint actions. So it means you can just change something related to these properties during this stage, and nothing will be you cannot change the geometry of the element. So if it's width and height is already fixed, and after that paint stage is going on. So let's take a look what it means. In paint worklet, as I said here, you see, I'm just saying, for all multi-border, I will provide a demo where we will try to achieve actually multiple border, which currently is not available, is currently under the discussion and specification, multi-border behavior for the browser, and we will say, I want my border top width to be 10 pixel, here it is, custom property, and we will provide some colors. You will see this in the next slide. This is a slide exactly about the code for you to understand how to work with worklets. So I'm saying my CSS custom property, border top width, will be a transport from my CSS to JavaScript, where I'm saying explicitly how big is the border. And for border image, previously we just used URL, something else. Currently I'm saying directive paint. Paint will tell the browser, try to execute paint worklet every time when you need this. And after that, I'm just registering property, this API which we discussed. I'm saying I want to register my transport from CSS to JavaScript, which is border top width, which is number, and not inherited, cool. And I'm saying that just add module. It immediately will execute, try to load this file and execute. Inside this file is actually our worklet. So let's take a look. Here is ECMAScript 6 class, like register, paint, and border colors. It has own thread, and here is the class. And in input properties method, we just reading this border top width. So as you see, from CSS to JavaScript to worklet, we just now have the ability to know this value, border top width. You can change this online, you will see how. During each paint, for this particular block, every particular paint, doesn't matter how often, browser will try to execute this particular method. In this method, we have both like element geometry, width, height, and this particular value of the CSS custom properties we use it. And here I'm just using usual canvas. I'm just creating rectangle and filling this with this magenta color because I can. And here let's take a look into the example. Using this API, the main particular stuff, you will have ability to create real CSS polyfills. Real, not just set timeout or anything. You see, I just executed my custom worker. Oh, sorry. Kind of, yeah, we are safe. Let's check. Cool. Anyway, I love Mac. So here I'm saying, let's take a look. Here's my block, and for this block, I'm using my border top width, exactly as we said before. And let's try to change it. I'm saying 30. You see, it started being bigger. I want 300 or anything. Browser immediately executes the parts of your worker. So here it is. I'm sorry once again. So it's real, actually, CSS polyfill. I can change border bottom, border top color. I can change color. Let's take a look and just change from red, I don't know, give me yellow. Immediately. So as you see, and paint was actually executed from our custom worklet immediately. You can change, I don't know, let's go fuser and change text here. I can provide anything, and you see immediately this border was changed and executed in the browser. It triggered paint action because it needed to. I can go from even fuser, from border image to background image, you see, and it was actually painted for background because browser can. So you can do whatever you want. Every time you're just saying paint, it will be on every change in the content, on every resize in your browser, anywhere browser will do paint. And let's take a look how it actually works. In Chrome, you can just highlight paints using this. You see, this green highlight is actually paints. I created a demo. You can take a look in my slides I will share on Twitter. And browser is very smart. You see, when I just resized the right part, which is text area, it just tried to paint only this particular area. You see, currently it's paint is going on only here. We don't have paint worklet there, but on these two things, I'm just doing this eyes. Thanks, Leah, for the idea. I just created this using Canvas. When you resize text area, it's background image where you just do this paint of this eyes. And yeah, it's how often actually this code is executed. You can take a look into the code there. And you can do like render in paint flashing in Chrome just to see when actually this paint is executed. Let's go further. And layout worklet. Today we had a good talk from Rachel about grid layout, where she said like currently we don't have any abilities just to control, we have new APIs in CSS anything and to actually make them work. Did you see? We just made work actually new multiple background property. And after a while it will be the same for CSS layout. Imagine, 4 years ago we just started waiting for CSS grid layout. Only now, actually since April, we have this implemented in all major browsers. We will have API where we will do some constraints. We will just say how set the behavior, and it will be immediately work in all the browsers. So it's actually API to create own layout algorithms, having access to these constraints, blocks, anything. And how it will work, something like this. You see ECMAScript class with some generator like layout. Here we will do some magic. This magic will be applied every time when something wants this layout per stage in CSS. You will have ability to actually implement something like masonry. And for example, somebody today sits and implements this masonry layout or anything, or grid layout, let's imagine, yeah, which we didn't have previously. And we use this as polyfill for our browsers. And after a while, browser just takes this polyfill and actually create and uses for their stuff. You will see some things in Chrome are implemented using these achievements. The same in CSS you will do for display, just directive layout. And the last is animation worklet of these three guys. Previously it was called Compositor worklet, and the main idea is that the code is executed in this, at the same time at the same when Compositor stage is going on in the browser. So we had this layout, paint, composite. And the main idea that during the composite usually happens on GPU, which means we have two properties which actually are compositor only. You will see on the next slide. It's transform and opacity. I will explain why. And the main use cases which you can do using this worklet, it's everything related to scroll, like scroll effects like sticky elements, smooth scroll animation, scroll up bar. And it's quite interesting that sticky header in the stable Chrome version was implemented using these achievements of CSS Houdini. So it was also scroll behavior, scroll points. Yeah, scroll points also implemented using this, but currently it's under the flag. So the main good thing of all this, polyfill is available. So you can start using everything what I will show you on the next slides today. Compositor only properties, as I said, it's opacity and transform. You may know that when you change these properties in your browser, actually not layout, not paint stages will be executed. It will be only composite. So your GPU will do everything for your component just to change the size, apply all these transform properties and opacity. And of course, the best just to promote this with will change property. And pixel rendering pipeline will be like this. And it doesn't change any geometry about the element. Again, the same demo, but with some addition. It's quite popular effect, just you see, this scroll. It appears, I'm scrolling down, and scroll position is shown. When I scroll into the down of the page, it's there. So it's quite easy to implement this using Animation Worklet. So let's take a look once again. I just created a line, you see, and just put it to the left using just left minus 100%. And I used this animator directive where I say it like, okay, there is my scroll position worklet, which I will just introduce a bit later, and there is my element, scroll element reference. This is my element, so please, worklet, every time when it's composite phase, just execute my code, which will be in this worklet. And of course, in JavaScript, I'm saying the same. Animation worklet, add module, my JavaScript file, where will be this code. So you can do the same using polyfill, and it will work for you in your Chrome and any other browser. Try it in Firefox anyway. And here is a big slide with the code. So let's take a look once again. Again, it's ECMAScript classes with certain attributes. And here I'm saying, For all the elements where you used this in CSS, scroll element reference, which we use it in CSS as a link, just we want to execute something on composite stage. We don't need to read anything from the component itself. We want to output. You can output two properties, transform and opacity, and every time when it's needed, it will be actually applied. And you can do some magic things using this. Why opacity and transform? Because it's the only compositor-only properties which will not trigger paint or layout. And there will be two other just methods like timeline and animate. What's going on in timeline? In timeline, you're saying, here are my options how to work with this animation worklet. In this particular case, I'm saying, take all the page and actually provide me scroll from 0 to 100%. When I'm at the top of the page, it's actually 0%. At the bottom of the page, it's 100%. Fair enough. And animate. This code will be executed every time when the browser actually does composite for your particular element. Here I'm saying like, okay, here's my position, like from 0 to 100%. I'm just changing this to needed for me points. And after that, I'm taking all the elements for which we want to apply this particular code. And after that, I use my CSS typed object model, this specification, which create, actually what I do is I'm just creating this property. Transform, translate 3D, x, 0, 0, 0. X we will be using just to put this line, which is scroll position to the right, which will show our scroll position. Let's take a look. Finally, no code, much better. We're scrolling down, you see, transform, translate 3D, 6%, 7%, anything. And when you're scrolling down, it actually goes further, till we scroll down to the bottom. And then it goes top. Fair enough, straight enough. It's quite easy, you know. Quite easy in terms of only you are familiar with this API, of course. And because of polyfill, you can use. And as I said, you can change some options here. For example, I don't want to take all the height of the page, and I want the scroll to show something different. You know, from 0 to 100% at let's say 375 pixels or anything. Cool. So I just added this like additional option and scroll offset here. What I can achieve using this? Here is my Twitter timeline. Here is the demo. You know. Twitter is quite good about everything just related to headers. They always provide very good header effects. I created my own just using one of their ideas. So when you start scrolling down, it's actually my avatar goes up and user info just appears here. It's done using actually these achievements, you see, going back. And I added small CSS with transition. I hope you would like it. Boom. Just to show how it actually works. It's plain CSS for this 3D animation. I'm going down, you see, user animation appears. I'm just going further, you just stay here. After that, you don't need this particular elements. All this achieved using this Compositor API worklet, nothing else. Once again, it disappears, 3D, and back. Let's put all this together, which we learned today. So it's good time to start using CSS Custom Properties, because we saw that they are supported in all major browsers, correct? And you can register custom properties from JavaScript, you know, the CSS register property. For example, you can check if it's available, register this for my performance improvements or anything like, or progressive enhancement. It's time to, of course, you can just play without any flags, without anything, with Animation Worklet using the polyfill. So you just take in JavaScript file, add into your application, boom. All this, everything what I showed you started working. And bright future will be like, you can start in Chrome, just activate this web experimental feature flag and start working with Paint Worklet, which means that you can do some crazy stuff regarding CSS polyfills, regarding anything you want. And of course, stay tuned with CSS Houdini group with all the specification, because currently we have, it's not only about worklets, it's also about font metrics, about some particular features in CSS and JavaScript, and many, many others. And of course, you can just follow me on Twitter just to know everything else. So yeah, and just don't hesitate to ask questions. You always know where to find me in Twitter or just here. And yeah, thank you for your attention, guys. Time for your questions. Just any?
So it's great that Chrome has introduced a lot of these APIs. Do you know when the other browsers are expected to have those?
Yeah, yesterday I revisited. There are about 7 issues in Firefox, and one of them, which is Paint, which is quite close to be finished in nightly. And the main idea about Paint API, many just browser vendors and guys from HP and LG, as far as I remember, are quite interested in introducing this API. So actually, it's quite close to appear on also in Firefox. And other guys, Edge has this, but I saw a couple issues, but didn't see any progress. So let's say coming in Firefox, I hope, yeah, and yeah, something like this. So again, it's not the only one Google child; it's other vendors as well. Hey, Patrick.
Yeah, it's Patrick. I'm on the Edge team. I just wanted to kind of jump on that answer a little bit too. I personally am pretty excited about Houdini. I'm actually giving a talk as well about this at another conference next week. But what the biggest indicator, if this is something you want to see on the web and you want browsers to implement, is to start using it and to start talking about it. Rachel did a phenomenal job getting Grid. I mean, Edge was the first one, or IE was the first one to implement Grid back in IE 10, but it wasn't until everybody followed Rachel's example and showed what wonderful things you can build with Grid that other browsers started picking it up. So if you really want to see this, the thing that will make other browsers, especially Edge, I can tell you for a fact, do it would be just to start playing with it, start blogging about it, tweeting about it, and letting us know, voting it up, stuff like that.
Let's make some noise about this, and it will be there. You're quite active, guys. So yeah.
Sorry, I was taking a minute.
Some feedback about Firefox.
So I work at Mozilla. I was taking a minute to look at our internal tracker here. It's probably not going to be this year, but the work is in progress. It is not. We're not sitting on our hands, but probably not before the end of 2017. No promises, certainly. I know. But
in Twitter, it was absolutely different.
We are committed to working on it and shipping it. We are not we're not rejecting it. We're just taking our time.
Okay. Waiting for all this. Yeah. Shit happens. Sorry, guys.
So, do we have other questions? So, Serge, thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
it
guys.
was magic.